Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to get started on our panel of YEC members and a special guest on workplace culture and productivity, which is being presented by our partners and friends at Dell. Especially during this unique time, where the workplace has shifted, it's been an increasing concern of how will you go about building culture, keeping culture, keeping your employees productive and locked in. And we just wanted to get this panel together to share perspectives, resources, and tools, and make improvements on keeping people as a first priority, and of course, how that translates into the success of the business. So on our panel today, next slide, awesome. On our panel today is Jennifer Barnes, the CEO of Optimal Office, a firm focused on providing outsourced accounting, bookkeeping service, and filling C-level roles that build their clients' trust. Ian Blair, CEO of Buildfire, a mobile app that customizes apps that users can create at a fraction of the time and cost. Miguel Polito, Senior Engineering Manager at Dell Technologies, which we know to be one of the greatest at delivering top-notch tech and services to small, mid, and large-sized companies. Miguel has been recognized for his leadership within the mega corporation. Finally, our moderator, Jenny O, founder of Wander, a product strategy and UX design firm that focuses on making B2B design sexy, easy to use, and simple. So Jenny, I'll hand it over to you so we can get this started and get right into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. Hi, everyone. I'm the founder at Wander. And as she mentioned, we are a UX design agency that's primarily focused on enterprise software. I'm a huge advocate for remote work, and I grew up and have lived all over the world. So being able to work remotely and have the freedom to travel whenever or wherever was a really important part of culture that I want to build for my company. So we have actually been remote since day one with our office fees. That the only office fees that we have been paying for is the $29 a month for a WeWorks mailing address for the last 5 years. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys as your moderator. So we're gonna kick off with a fun question, which is, what's been the most fun virtual thing that you guys have done for your team? And I'm going to kick it over to Jennifer for this.
You know, it's been tough managing 70 people during a pandemic and trying to make it fun to be at home all day long for most of the team that is stuck dealing with being a chef and an Uber driver and a mom and all that fun stuff that our team has been tackling with. But the funnest thing we actually did, I'm going to name two quick things. One of them is early on into COVID, when everyone was just very much at home, we had everybody find one item in their house that was important to them and then share it during a Zoom meeting with all the employees. So it was so crazy what some people would come up with and say, oh, look, I have this pen from so-and-so, or a couple people held up their cat, and it was just kind of fun for the team to get to know each other. And then the most recent thing we did that was super fun was a murder mystery virtual event where there was prizes, and the winning team got $1,000, and second place got 500, and it was just really engaging and fun. It was actually a little more fun than I thought it was going to be, but stuff like that, anything that you can get the team engaged and together and feeling like they're together.
Gotcha. And was that murder mystery, did you guys organize that, or did you hire a third-party vendor to come in and organize?
Yeah, we actually, one of our clients is Positive Adventures, and they're all event-driven company. And so for them, they had to pivot pretty quickly, and they started offering summer camps and things for children. And then they also started doing all these really cool virtual events. So they still have them available. They do scavenger hunts and murder mysteries and bingo games and all sorts of really cool stuff. So we're actually going to do another one next month because it was so fun.
That's awesome. So Miguel, over at Dell, do you see murder mystery, virtual murder mystery, being something that a larger corporation can incorporate into their culture, or what's another fun thing that you do with your team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least the company culture within the groups that I manage would definitely be open to murder mystery. It sounds like fun. Actually, there's been quite a few virtual events so it's kind of hard to choose one. I'll keep it somewhat simple, I guess, with my example. Despite knowing most of my team for the better part of 8 years, we dedicated some time to our weekly staff call to somewhat reboot our relationship, if you will, and get to know each other a bit more. So we've been engaging in, sharing a slide about yourself, just like what makes you work, why are you working, what are the things that are important to you, family, hobbies, fun facts about you. And it's great because those are things that oftentimes change over the course of many years. So I've gotten to sort of relearn what are priorities for my teammates and where their skills have gotten better in certain things that are just not related to the workplace, but still can be leveraged, right? So that's been somewhat of it's still going on. So we're not done with that yet. Because of the number of people, but that's been a really fun activity. It's given folks a chance to sort of let loose and sort of rethink, why are they working so hard? And some folks with COVID brain, being trapped in their house, so to speak, feel like they need to somewhat connect with broader audiences and share sort of what they're going through. So it's been a pretty enlightening experience and overall successful. So.
Yeah, I love that slide idea. It also kind of ties into what Jennifer mentioned, which is sharing something that's, laying around in your home, sharing something that's personal to you. And we definitely do that at our company as well, which is, share a photograph that means something to you. And it's really interesting because like what we've had was people would share something from a family photo all the way to something that's very futuristic, like a photo of Mars or something like that. So it really shows everyone's personalities. Now, Ian, at Buildfire, how would you say that you guys are creating connection with your team virtually? Because you guys had an amazing office out in San Diego, and now you're all virtual. So how has that been for you?
Yeah, it's been quite interesting. So, the history of the company, we first started off as fully remote. Then we're like, okay, we need an office. And we did the office thing for, close to 4 years, 3-4 years. And we have about 55 people total, half being remote. We have a lot of overseas people as well as, our core San Diego group. And, obviously in a digital age, you have to be very intentional about creating connection with one another. Some of the fun things that we've done, as a team is like, how do we encourage people to just somewhat like hang out like as friends and just have somewhat, water cooler type of discussions, or, just trying to create that sense of like, what it would be like hanging out. So we've done like virtual poker events. So like everyone will hop on Zoom, we'll do a happy hour, and then we'll organize, a staff poker event, which can be really fun. And, people will stay up pretty late into the night. And we hosted, I don't know, probably 15, 20 poker nights, probably, and more so in the beginning when everyone was staying at home. But, we try to just create, an informal atmosphere for people to connect rather than everything being so formal, like during scheduled meetings.
Yeah, and that's the tough part. Everyone feels like they're having Zoom fatigue, and everything has now turned into a Zoom meeting. So and this is to any one of you guys, like, what are some other small things that you've done where you're incorporating culture without making it feel like, oh, here's another Zoom event? Anything through Slack or anything that you guys do?
Slack, I think, is a really powerful way to kind of create that feed going throughout the day. And like, we use a bunch of GIFs. So like we've implemented, you can add an add-on into Slack called Giphy. And, the sales team, they're leveraging that quite a bit to create like that momentum. So like, for example, whenever we close a deal, we have a sales team channel, and we also put like other people in that as well, so they can really feel that momentum of like, hey, we see deals coming in and everyone's celebrating that. So we try to create an environment in Slack for at least people to celebrate the wins. And we've also incorporated tools like Bonusly for our employees to be able to recognize each other and give out bonus points that they can redeem for, actual dollars. So just really trying to create that kind of ongoing, feed and somewhat like kind of dopamine hits, right? Like how do we somewhat gamify and like make working in Buildfire a bit more interactive? So we've definitely leveraged Slack as a way to do that quite a bit.
Yeah,
Is
I'll
it-
second that. We love Bonusly. I've been using it for probably 5 or 6 years. And so it gets people a bit competitive and it just helps with that interaction. But I will say I went a little rogue, and in December, instead of doing all Zoom holiday party, I decided to do an employee appreciation rally. And so you could have rallies and protests in December. And so I decided to call it an employee appreciation rally so that they could give us their thoughts. And so we had about 25 people come. It was all outside and everyone felt safe. Nobody had any COVID issues. So I said, you know what, I need to get the team together. So screw all this remote stuff. I'm gonna go rogue.
Yeah, never underestimate the power of appreciation. We host workshops for our clients, and one of the icebreaker activities that we do is we ask our clients, team members, to share like one thing that they appreciate about someone else on that call. And you can tell from their faces, like they've been dying to like express themselves and express their appreciation. Because when you're virtual and you hop on these meetings, it's just, hey, what's on the agenda? And you forget to appreciate the other person that's on the call. Miguel, what about you? Like, what other ways are you creating culture? Are you guys using Slack?
Yeah, I think the biggest part, or one of the bigger parts on transitioning to maybe a Zoom only type of meeting is that sort of immediate response that you need to give someone when you're on a Zoom meeting. So part of that, at least for us, we've been trying to encourage, not necessarily having to set up a Zoom meeting to get a point across or to discuss an idea or how to solve a problem. Pick up the phone, text somebody. You don't need to always have that sort of face-to-face immediate response. We've been utilizing Skype for years, and now Microsoft Teams. Those are just corporate tools that we've been using for a long time. They work fairly well. A bit of a text messaging app, if you will, on a PC, but I think it allows that sort of casual interaction of ideas that's pretty successful. A little less pressure than, hey, give me an answer right now. I'm staring right at you. I can see that you're not giving me an answer. So I think that somewhat bit of a disconnection helps just ease the pressure of that Zoom fatigue that we're all talking about.
Yeah, and just kind of riffing off of that, I know a lot of new remote managers worry about that productivity. Like if someone's not responding right away, are they offline? Are they not working? So how would you say that you build trust with your employees or with your clients when your entire team is fully remote?
Yeah, so I think that trust comes when you first hire your employees, right? That's something that I think was built in through the vetting process when you first identified that they had what you were looking for. So I don't necessarily jump to conclusions when I don't get a response back right away, especially during these times. I pretty much trust my team. I set expectations with my team. They know what those expectations are. And as long as those are being met, I have every thought in my mind telling me that, hey, the right thing is being done, because I've already gone through sort of what was necessary to impose that trust on these people. So I'm not necessarily measuring or counting the minutes when a response is getting back, as long as the milestones that we set out, the KPIs that we've set out are being met. I'm a pretty happy guy.
I'm going to second that, Miguel. I think that a lot of the trust and culture, it comes down to the hiring process and making sure you have the right people on the bus.
Absolutely.
Because even you could do everything right, and one of the things I think we do really well here at Optima is communication. So how much can you possibly communicate? I'd say I'd rather over communicate than under communicate, and people want to hear from you, especially when they're holed up at their house. So you can communicate, you can give them things, you can reward them, you can recognize them. There's so many things you can do, but if you don't hire correctly up front, then it makes it very difficult to maintain a culture that is consistent with what your overall cultural beliefs are as an organization. And just as an example, one of the main important things here is culture. And so it's flexibility, it's kindness, it's hiring the right people who are going to do a really good job for our clients. And so I have an assessment that I give to every single human. I've probably given it to 300 people after they take the IQ test, because I do make people take an IQ test. If you want to be an accounting and human resources consultant, you got to be pretty smart. So we have them do an IQ test. And then once we've ruled out that, that they are intelligent, or not ruled out, but ruled that they are intelligent, we have them do a cultural assessment. So one of the questions that I ask is, what 5 things would you do if you won $5 million after taxes? And then what motivates you? What's one of your pet peeves? What's a top value or trait that you would like about another person that would make you want to be friends with them? And so we ask these "who are you" questions, and it really makes me understand, are they the type of fit for my culture? And we've gotten so good at that process that we've really had a fairly easy time maintaining a good, consistent culture.
Yeah, I mean, I would second that. Obviously, you solve a lot of problems by bringing the right people in. You know, you can save yourself many cascading problems, you know, much further down the line just by bringing people in, you know, and having the right hiring process. I'll kind of take a different line though. I think some of the ways that we build trust with our employees, I think through like authenticity and transparency in our communication. And when I speak with my team, I'm just very clear like what the metrics are. Like I don't hide much, you know, get everyone kind of on the same page of like what we're mapping towards as a company. And one thing that we've also done is, you know, we've incorporated OKRs in our business for just about like the last 2 years, and you can have those cascading objectives throughout the organization. And you know, everyone is very clear on what they need to do, like what their North Star is, how we're going to measure them. And when you hire capable and competent people, you don't necessarily need to micromanage them. If they're just clear on what their objectives are and you define key results that are measurable, and then you ensure they're working on all the right projects at a high level, and you have those like periodic check-ins, like they're probably not going to go too far off course. And yeah, so I think the way I kind of think about it, it's having clear objectives for the team. Like that helps a lot of the performance aspects. And then in terms of just like building that trust, it's like being authentic and being transparent. And that goes both ways. So kind of combining those two together, I think really gets a culture that can, you know, output results.
100%. And I think that goes without saying for both remote and in office culture. I know other people have questions around time tracking as well. You know, yes, it's important to set objectives and KPIs and follow through with that. But what about time tracking? So for example, with our company, it's important that we're tracking time just for profitability for our projects, at the same time also having objectives. So for you guys, would you say that you're a time tracker, or would you rule that out completely because you have KPIs?
I think it depends on the department. So obviously the way we're going to measure sales is different than customer support and different than engineering. So every department is going to be run slightly differently, and depending on like what their day-to-day tasks look like, you know, you might need to track the time, you might not need to track the time. I don't think there's a blanket answer, but generally we aren't having to track people's hours on specific tasks. Like, you know, on our sales team, you know, we use tools that automatically log all your activities. So I can easily pull up a view that says like, you know, what are your activities? We use tools like Gong to be able to measure, you know, what the conversations are like. You know, it's basically like having an AI sales director, and you can get all the data you need in an instant. So I think generally we've incorporated tools into our processes that just make it like pretty much auditable for almost all departments that we work with. You know, in customer support, we can pull up and see, well, how many tickets did you answer? You know, what's your average customer customer satisfaction rating? So there's a lot of metrics just like built into the tools that make it fairly easy to know whether or not people are doing their job.
And so speaking of tools, what would you say are your top 5 best remote tools that you recommend to everyone? And let's start with Miguel.
Oh, wow. Geez. I mean, for work, I think it all depends on the task at hand, right? So, because just the nature of my team's work, my work, it could go from, one end of the spectrum, using Eclipse to write a driver or write a piece of code all the way through to Outlook to, answer emails or tracking a problem through Jira there are a number of different tools. I think it just depends on what you're trying to solve. I would say a communication tool, a milestone tracking tool, like whether that's, MS Project or, to track milestones, KPIs, paths, whether a certain task is being met, whether there's a critical path that needs to be addressed, whether it's not being addressed, who's a stakeholder, those types of things. I think those tend to be my go-tos and are somewhat scalable, I think, from everywhere that I've worked. So I think rather than trying to go with a somewhat unique, obscure tool that does something really well, I typically try to use something that can cross-pollinate across many environments, so that I can potentially share that if I need to with if I don't know how often it would happen with other organizations, but at least other business units within our team or within our umbrella. So I look for more sort of tools that I can cross-pollinate versus like, hey, this thing does this really well for me, but I'm not going to be able to share that outside of my own sort of knowledge. So yeah, I'm not sure if that quite answers the question, but I stick to sort of the basics when it comes to tools, as long as it's tracking what I need it to track or enabling me to get the work that I need done. I typically start at a very sort of foundational level versus like an overinflated or a bloated piece of software, if you will.
And do you guys use any tools aside from productivity, more so for culture building?
Yeah, I got one that
go
I'm pretty
ahead.
excited about, which is 15.5. I've been demoing their software and playing around with some of my employees, and like really, I think if you're running fully remote, you need some software or some tool to essentially manage performance, culture, and have also that feedback loop with your employees, because it's easy to, you turn off the meeting and then you don't see them, and it's a lot easier to hide versus, in the office you can pick up on a lot more social cues that are, nonverbal, and you can see like, hey, what's wrong, or getting that feedback loop. So 15.5, what it essentially allows us to do is, one, survey all of our employees at scale, and like they have pre-built surveys, and we can see like how are people feeling and get that feedback loop as a company, saying like, how do we need to improve to serve our employees better? Because like as a company, especially when you're north of 50 people, like it's what you're trying to do is really unblock people so they can be the best version of themselves, and a lot of the decisions you make have like large cascading effects. I mean, just incremental improvements with that many people makes a massive difference over a year. And, additionally with tools like that, I can also hold my managers accountable to making sure they're holding all their one-on-ones and going and reviewing those notes. So, the way I kind of broadly think about it is, there are tools and softwares and teams that have developed management best practices, and you can take their tools and systems and just apply it to your company and get better results and better outcomes. So it's almost like, these software tools allow us to be better managers and do it very easily with not a lot of, mental power.
What about you, Jennifer?
We have an entire employee relations program and a mentorship program and some training programs. So we're constantly, because our staff is pretty diverse. I mean, we've got people in their 60s who are CFOs and COOs, and then we've got people in their 20s who are staff accountants and staff assistants. So it's a very wide group of people to motivate it and keep watch on the productivity. So it really comes comes down to an overall management of individuals at different levels. So I don't know that I don't have a straight answer. Like I have a one-stop answer for that, but we do performance evaluations and, you know, ongoing coaching and training and helping people with resources. And then one thing we have is a company intranet. So it's a team site that has templates and best practices and training videos and a kind of a one-stop place that at any level people can go to. And then we try to measure certain people on, okay, have you taken these trainings? Have you taken the advice of the mentors, or have you've done the certain things we've asked you to do? So it's a little different for me since my age range. I think the average age of my company is about 47 and I'm 41. So.
Has that been difficult, just having such a wide range and everyone going virtual?
Well, we have about a 3,500 square foot office here that I'm sitting at right now. I've probably got 10 people here today. So I have a mix of people who are here on site, which I want on site office. I just signed a 5-year lease a couple months ago, just moved in, and I have no regrets. I love my office space. I love having people here. So it's almost a balance of having the people that are here in the office internally working on Optima, and then the balance of the people that are in the field servicing our 200 clients. So it's trying to get everybody on the same page and consistent. It hasn't been difficult, so to speak, because I really try to listen and communicate with everybody really well. And I try to give as much autonomy to my team as possible. So when you hire a 63-year-old man CFO who's had 30 years of experience, I'm not going to tell him how to do his job. He or she, right? I'm not going to say this is how you should be a CFO. So I just have to inherently trust that they know what they're doing. They're going to service our clients to the best of their ability. They're going to communicate. So again, it comes down to that culture and that trust.
Awesome. And two more tools that I just want to throw in there that we really love at Wander that I haven't heard yet is Miro, which is like a virtual whiteboard. It's awesome. You can put sticky notes on there. You can drop links. It's whenever we do a brainstorming session, we'll book out anywhere from like an hour and a half to a 4-hour session, and everyone just jumps onto this whiteboard. So highly recommend Miro. And the second thing is Jackbox TV. So we use that for when we do like game nights. It's usually like one of those like Friday night, chill with your friends, put it on your TV kind of game set that we've now brought over to our team, and you can use your phone or your computer to play it, and it's a lot of fun. So highly recommend that. Now I do want to move over to talking about Zoom meetings, because that has been a big stress and concern for a lot of people. You know, you're always on Zoom and you're in meetings that you don't necessarily feel like you should be in meetings. So I'm curious if you guys had any tips on how to make these Zoom meetings more meaningful, productive, or even fun all around.
You know, I'll share one really quick thing, and then I'll let everybody kind of take this one. But we like to start and end each meeting with an open, a word open. Like, what is your one word open? Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it frustrated? Is it depressed? Is it whatever? And we kind of take the mood of the group, and I have a fluctuating agenda. So I'm either going to start off with all business. What do I need you guys to do? Make sure you're entering your time on time, Or if there's people that, you know, it's a Monday meeting usually. So if I feel that the team is a little more not ready for Monday yet, I might start off with something a little more fun and save the all business stuff for later. And then we do a one-word close. How are you feeling? I mean, we've got 50, 60 people on these Zoom meetings, so it's interesting to see the results. And then again, like you're doing polls, doing a lot of polls, doing breakout rooms, getting them interactive with each other. We do a lot of that.
Yeah, from my side, I like to always start meetings off with wins, right? Getting people in a mode of being grateful, right? You know, obviously gratitude changes everyone's like kind of, you know, brain space. And then also, you know, just making people realize that like, hey, I have accomplished things. I am making progress, you know, and we'll talk about sometimes like, you know, what are the expected wins for next week? So, you know, I'll generally leverage wins to just try to at least just reset the room real quick and get everyone energized. That's been, you know, an easy way to to just boost the mood.
Yeah, and it's similar on my side. I'd say starting meetings sort of light, just with, hey, how's your day going so far? How is everyone's day going so far? Keeping it light, but also starting, 15 minutes after the hour, and ending, 15 minutes before the end of the hour has been pretty helpful as well. I think a lot of folks, depending on how many Zoom meetings they have, we tend to have, it's not unheard of to have 10 back-to-back Zoom meetings, and it's just folks sort of looking at an Outlook opening and placing a Zoom meeting there. So it's pretty common here. So part of what we've been trying to do is just ending them a bit early or a bit later, just to give that 15-minute sort of grace period, so you can sort of gather your marbles for the next meeting, and not be not having to sort of flip the light switch over to a completely different context from what you were, in the previous meeting. So that's been super helpful, at least on my side, and most of my team members' side as well. So
Also,
Awesome.
you can make
Yeah.
people laugh. Make people
Yeah, that's
laugh,
important.
and then you'll change the whole mood real quick.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for us, one of the things that we do is when we have a double-digit number of people on a call, we do try to start out a meeting with music or some kind of icebreaker. The music's really good because, especially when we're doing like client-facing workshops, because one, like you're getting the team pumped up, and then two, there's always going to be like 1 or 2 people who are 5 minutes late, so it gives them time to like hop on while the music is still playing. So that's been a really great way for us to start the meetings. And themes. So for example, this morning we had our monthly all team meeting, and our theme today was Winter Wonderland. So everyone dressed up. Some people dressed up as Bernie. Others had like carrots on their nose because they dressed up like snowman. So these meetings can go really long, and it's a great way for everyone to just like feel like they're participating, even if they're not speaking on the call, to just show off what they, show off a little bit of their personality. Let's see. So moving forward, where do you guys see your organization going to? Is it going to continue to be remote? Is it going to be a mixed culture? Or would you say you're going to be back to the office as soon as possible?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So, for us going, from fully remote to hybrid, half in office, half remote, just the way we scaled our company, I see us going more towards the direction of more remote than and less office. And largely because the talent pool, like we're in a fairly decent market. Like San Diego is not, a bottom of the barrel type of market, but it's still like rather hard to find like high quality people. And I just think about, my downtown office being somewhat the epicenter. Do I just want to limit my talent pool to just a 30-mile radius? And my overall opinion is, I think with the people that we've attracted to our business, they generally prefer working remote. So I'm going to just head more in that direction to, looking at larger markets, other areas to hire people, just so I can find the best people for the business. Because at the end of the day, we're a knowledge worker business, and I need just incredibly smart and talented people. I don't think it's going to be really hard for a lot of companies to demand saying, hey, we're going back like 9 to 5 in the office, when you've proven for over a year that you can produce consistent business results. So I think just in general, we're going more remote, but we'll always still have like an in-person meeting office for wherever we have a critical mass of people.
Yeah, so in large part, most of my team has been remote, with a few traditionally going into the office, for proof of concept testing or meetings and other in-office related tasks. But by and large, we've had a pretty successful, sort of outlook on extending those in-office activities remotely, using virtualized sandboxes for each of our team members, and even for our customers to test and qualify solutions. So I think it's been pretty effective, and I think the effectiveness of working remotely, I think, is probably pretty well documented by this point. from a productivity perspective. But I'm always very cognizant, I think, on one hand, of staying connected with my team, and on the other hand, sort of balancing the time that they need, sort of team members to be on their own and sort of time for themselves. I think it's harder to make that differentiation when you're working from home or working remotely, to sort of turn it off at the end of the day, right? You have the ability. I know I have the ability to work all hours of the night if I want to, versus if I was going into the office, you're somewhat cutting it off, so to speak. But so that balance is sort of important for me. I try to really look at burnout. I don't want any of my teammates feeling like they're burning out. I want them to have that sort of work-life balance intact. So they love their job and love coming into work and continue to be passionate about our mission statement and all the things that we do for our customers. So.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge when you feel like you can't leave the work at the office. You have work at home now. So sorry to cut you off, Jennifer. What were you going to say?
No, I'll go. That's one of the things with Zoom, right? It's hard when multiple people, it's like, who's spotlighted right now? Who's talking? Well, and that's a perfect example. I love having my team for collaboration type meetings, brainstorming type meetings. We did a marketing strategy session the other day, and I just don't think it would have been as effective via Zoom. I think having all of us in the room together and collaborating as people, building relationships, and it just allows for just a little bit better communication, in my view, maybe a lot better communication. But a lot of our team is remote, working at their clients' offices. So for us, we don't necessarily have a choice, so to speak, because if our clients want us on site, then we're going to be on site at their office. And usually that, I find, helps build better relationships to a certain extent. And then when you're, when you're here in our office together, there's a bit of collaboration. I mean, I really like being here in person with my team. But with that said, I work 11 in the office. I'm here around 11, sometimes 11:30, sometimes 12, and then I'm in the office until 7:38. Those are my hours. I like those hours. I go to the gym in the morning. Other people might want to get to the office at 6 and leave at 2. So 9 to 5, I mean, who the heck came up with 9 to 5? I mean, I don't even get up until about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not going to be at the office sitting in front of my desk at 9. So why would I expect that from my staff? I think, so my husband, on the flip side, works for a large company, General Atomics. They have a beautiful campus. I mean, they've got tennis courts, volleyball courts, a giant gym, outdoor swimming. They've got every amenity you can. It's called the GA Country Club, basically. And they want their people at the office, right? They didn't build this world-class billion-dollar, facility so that people are sitting at their houses. But what I asked my husband, I said, why can't you just work from home from 8:30 to 11, have lunch, get to the office around 12:31, work in the office until 6, 7, beat traffic, and then head home. So hopefully businesses start adopting this. And as Ian said, if it's working and people are productive remotely, why take that from them if they really prefer it? And then use the in-office time if needed for that productivity, that cohesiveness, and collaborating.
Yeah, one last thing to add to that as well, the 9 to 5 framework, because we've tried different methods at Wander throughout the years. We've had everyone be available 9 to 5 remotely, and then we've tried taking those mandatory hours out. And now we're back to having some sort of mandatory hours for online communication time. So we set 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time to be online, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in front of your computer grinding on work. It just means between those hours, we should be expecting to hear from you if we have a question that we need to reach you for. So I think that did help our productivity quite a bit, because otherwise what would happen is I send out a message and then I don't hear back from someone that I need to until the next day. So it's important to put some sort of framework around your asynchronous communication as well. We are coming up on time, and I know we have some questions from our audience. So I'll leave it here for any questions from the YEC group. Ashley, are you seeing them from the Facebook group?
No, nothing in the Facebook group. However, I know that we had some really great conversations going on in the chat here, and they've kind of been getting answered. Jennifer shared a slew of information in regards to what she uses in terms of her personality and her culture assessments. She also shared some really great tips in terms of virtual and face-to-face programs. I know, let's see, is she still on the line?
Oh. Me?
Oh, no, not Jennifer.
Oh.
Sheila, is Sheila still here? I don't know if Sheila's still here, but
Hi,
Sheila.
here.
Hey, Sheila, how are
Hi,
you?
good. How are you, Ashley?
Good.
Good.
Did you have any additional questions, or did you just want to hear about the culture assessment?
No, I mean, I think, two of the questions you threw up on the polls were like, how much are you investing in culture and how much are you investing in productivity? So I'm a plastic surgeon in LA. I also have e-commerce. I also have a nonprofit conference. But I just want to know, like, do you guys like, I've heard about setting funds aside for marketing budget. I've never heard of setting funds aside for culture and productivity budgets. So is that something you all are doing?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely dedicated a good portion of that. And even when we were in the office, we did like a first Friday, like we would do a kind of all hands meeting where we review what we did for the month, and then we all would go out and grab drinks and have some fun activities. So I think it's important to dedicate some budget for that. And whether it's investing in tools or actually hooking your team up with like swag, right? A lot of people like that. It's interesting. Like they all wear like Buildfire sweaters, Buildfire t-shirts, Buildfire mugs, and those little things go a long way, especially with your remote team. Like if you have anyone overseas, like you send them a bunch of swag, they absolutely lose their minds. They love it.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add in there as well is we used to do in-person retreats. So our team has been remote for the last 5 years, and then we'll get together around like once or twice a year for an all-team retreat. And those typically, what we're calculating is between 3,000 to 5,000 per person for like a 3-4 day retreat. And it's a really great way for everyone to get together, get to know each other on a personal level, and like everyone's still talking about it after they leave. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to do that this year, but they are a ton of fun and definitely worth putting together.
So Ginny, are you like taking them all to Palm Springs and putting them up in like how does that look? What does that look like?
Yeah, different locations. So we've had retreats in New Orleans, here in LA. We've had one in Mexico City. So it just kind of depends on what our budget is, where the team at that time in place are located, and yeah, what's going to be the most affordable as well. So definitely not Palm Springs.
Yeah, and we also have maybe 2 annual events that we've traditionally done now for at least for the 8 years that I've been with the company. They're kind of like a end of the half bash, if you will, where everybody sort of lets loose and they fly out everyone to a remote location, and it's kind of a big fun party to go over accomplishments and let loose a little. It's a little mix and match of education as well as, hey, you've done a great job for this period. Let loose, indulge, and have a good time. So it's been somewhat of a tradition for us for years now.
Yeah, we typically mix ours with like the let loose and have fun, as well as like having select people lead workshops so that it's just more of like a training and get together.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, before the pandemic, we had planned on this last December of 2020, because we do have 70 people, and I've got people in Arizona and Irvine and San Diego, flying everybody out. I don't have those kinds of funds. I think that would probably be $100,000 party. But we were going to go to, I think it was not Paula, one of the casinos. We were just going to get everybody a night of the hotel. It's kind of halfway for people in Arizona. We're not too far. Viejas is what it was. It's not too far for people in Arizona. It's not too far for people in Orange County. We're going to have everybody go, and we're going to have this big blowout party. And I'm doing that this year, pending no pandemic issues. But what we do, instead of a giant retreat, because again, the age ranges and the people, I mean, I employ, I think 60 of us are accountants, and accountants are just a different breed. Not that we're not as fun as other people, But most of my accounting team are a little more introverted, and they have their own. They have they have kids, and they don't want to leave their kids for a retreat and whatnot. But we do every other month a happy hour, and so we're going to start doing that again soon. So we do just get together happy hour. To be honest, it is cheaper for me to do a happy hour and pay for everybody's food and drinks and get them all together for who wants to come than having to pay for their hourly rate to attend a staff meeting. So it's just let's do something fun. Let's do formal meetings. And then let's have one or two events like a beach barbecue. Everybody gets together. What kind of fun things can we do as a company that gets everybody together and gets them to know each other? I did rent a yacht 3 times now over the last 6 years, and that was super fun. So I guess renting a yacht is always a good idea.
And speaking of happy hour, one thing that doesn't cost a dime, that's a lot of fun that we do, is we ask, depending on the special occasion, for someone to prepare their cultural dish. So for example, in December, we asked everyone, what's something cultural that you eat during this time of year, and share a story with us. And everyone just, either bought or prepared their food, got onto a Zoom meeting and shared something. And it was a lot of fun, and it definitely didn't cost us anything to host.
So I have another question. I'm so sorry. When you're doing these Zoom cultural dinner meeting things, is it voluntary? Are you paying them their hourly fee to do this? What's happening?
It's all voluntary. Yeah.
Yeah, we do it all voluntary as well. And then touch on Ian's comment about swag items. I think if you can put your company name on anything, do it. So we've got 5 different types of apparel items that people can choose from, and we've got our Optima pens, we've got notepads, we've got binders, we've got briefcases, we've got mirrors, we've got sunscreen. Name it, I've branded it, and my team is out there wearing it. Even hats. Seriously, I probably have 25 different branded items, and it's a way that the people at the company, even if they're not here, they're still representing your company and your culture.
Yeah, they feel like a part of it. And I would also recommend buy nice, so people actually use it. So so if you buy, coffee mugs, get nice coffee mugs that people actually want to use. Buy nice sweatshirts, buy, whatever it is, just buy it nice, and people are way more likely to use it.
I just did that with Lululemon jackets. I got the reversible bombers for them, and then put a logo on one side, and then you have to patch the other side, which has been drama, but working on it.
Yeah, people wear that for sure. It's a good idea.
That's awesome. I would wear that. I'll wear your logo if it's Lululemon.
You're like, Ginny, you look so young. What did she do to it?
Thanks, Sheila. Anyone else? We have time for probably maybe one last question, then I'm going to hand it over to YJ so he can wrap up with some words from Dell.
I had a question.
Yeah. Hey, Corey.
Hi. So when Ian was talking about 15.5, it's something we've taken a run at a couple of times, and it seems like that and all of these things are always at a sort of a counterweight of us just getting out of the way. I've noticed that we've tried to implement different productivity tools. People get really excited about them, or culture tools, and then they just forget about them. And it dies off, and we can't get anybody to answer questions, and it just dies. So I'm curious if anybody has tips that way of, I don't know, preventing people from getting burnt out, getting enough people excited. Maybe, I don't know, if you do a happy hour that it's not mandatory fun, do people still participate in it? So just sort of dealing with that pushback of people that just don't want to jump into things like this.
That's a good point. It's easy to get excited about a tool, try to roll it out, but then not stay disciplined with it, and then you just end up wasting a bunch of money on it. So on one hand, I've been trying to be a bit more thoughtful with the tools that we do choose, and have fewer tools, but the ones we do pick, make sure they're absolutely used. And especially with a performance feedback tool, as long as you can also be a bit transparent with the data. We did a whole company survey, and then when we did our all hands, I showed here's what the answers were. This is what you guys wanted. Here's how we're going to take action. So now I've actually tied value to them actually taking the time to go answer those questions. So I think if you're like with the tool specifically like 15.5, it's like letting them know that they're being heard and then showing that you're taking action based off of it. So then they feel like empowered with that.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add is having an ambassador, I think, spearhead it and sort of publicize it and use it and sort of making sure that it is actually addressing what it was meant to address, taking it through its full sort of courses. And because you're right, if there isn't sort of accountability pressed on someone to be that ambassador for it, then yeah, it's just going to fall by the wayside and you'll forget all about it. In fact, you won't even know it was there. So I think just assigning somebody, whether that's going to be you and really just sticking it through until it fails at whatever it was that it was intended to do in the first place. So.
And one last thing I just wanted to share before we pass the mic back over to the Dell side. These like virtual cards, we just received them. I received them from Michael Dash. They're really awesome and like a really cute way of just being like, hey, you're on mute. So thought I would share that with you guys.
That's good.
It's called,
Where did you get that?
well, I got them as a gift from Michael Dash, but it's called the virtual meeting DigiCards.
So cute.
Nice.
Thanks for sharing, Jenny. Thank you everyone for sharing. We really appreciate all of your perspectives and your input on the topic. I do want to hand it over to YJ as we wrap up.
Sure. Thanks, Ashley. I'll make this really, really quick and fun. Let me screen share, or I think it's disabled real quick. But change management is always hard. One thing that we do at Dell is okay, cool. One thing that we do at Dell is sometimes offering certain types of beverages to get people on board. So that's a way in which you can kind of incentivize people to listen. It's like, hey, it's going to be a happy hour and we're just going to try new things and learn together as we try to grow and scale our companies. One thing that we really want to focus on as part of the Dell team is how can we support your endeavors utilizing all of the cool stuff that we do. So Dell is a great company in a sense that we are a true end-to-end solutions provider. We can support any aspect of your IT infrastructure, even if you're not using Dell systems. We're doing a lot of stuff on the app side, on the platform as a service side. And we also have a venture arm that we are working really together with to figure out how we can drive these initiatives. So they're really focused on enterprise technology solutions, but the reason why I'm here today is to kind of just show you what we're trying to do to support the startups ecosystem. And part of that is you have a program manager such as Marcus, who's also on this call, myself, and one of my bosses, all having entrepreneurial experience to figure out what can we do to work with you to support you. And we, of course, have Miguel, who is my go-to person whenever any startups here are working on developing a really cool intellectual property or patent and they need help on the production side. So if you need any like go-to-market strategy or product development, or you just want some advice of how Miguel does it in this large Fortune 50 company, I will have his email on the bottom and I'll put it in the chat as well. Feel free to reach out to us. But he works with a lot of very talented people. And what we do is if you're developing a hardware solution, we are also really close. We can figure out how to make it ruggedized. So if you're going into something in the oil and gas industry, or if you're doing something in healthcare and need some chemical resistance. So we do a lot of hardware stuff. We do a lot of software stuff. And we're just here for you guys. And what that journey looks like is spending time with us. We love to learn more about your businesses. We love to learn how what you may need. And we're happy to connect you with any person at Dell to support you. Like I said, we have a venture arm. We also have this thing called the Experience Innovation group. And really their focus is on solving some of the problems that Michael Dell himself is trying to solve. So sustainability, procurement, and material goods. So what they do is they work with startups to figure out if there's any companies that would utilize our economies of scale to help support them, and what type of partnerships we could have. So if those are the conversations you like to have, then feel free to get in touch with us. Our email is at startups@dell.com. And I also put Miguel's email on there, and I'll put it on the chat, or someone can put it on chat. It'll be on the chat. And feel free to reach us out on LinkedIn as well. So thank you, Ashley. I'll turn the mic back to you. And we really appreciate doing this. Really loved and enjoy learning about what everyone's doing for their companies. And, we're just excited to be part of your journey.
Thanks so much, YJ. And thank you so much, Miguel, Jenny, Ian, and Jennifer for sharing everything, all your tips, your tricks, and how everything has been working out, especially during this very unique time. I just want to say thank you to the audience as well for joining us. I know it's busy time of year, reaching your goals for Q1 and so on. So thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to concierge@yec.co or Miguel's email, startups@dell.com. We have so many resources to you. And yec.co/Dell is always there for you as well. Thank you.